Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto, and BMW has been putting their 1200-ish cc Boxer Twin in a number of different forms of motorcycles over the last few years. We just recently had it in the R12 9T, kind of the more style-focused, retro-y cruiser kind of bike, and now we're seeing it here in this on-road, off-road, scramble-ish sort of machine, the R12 GS. With this package, we're getting some skid plate protection underneath. We're getting some mildish off-road tires. They're Anarchy Adventures. I think I had the Anarchy Adventure on the rear of my V-Strom 650 back in the day. It was a pretty good tire. We've got some stylish kind of rally-inspired design. And despite the off-road capability-ish of this bike, I bet you it's going to see a lot of on-road riding because, it's just kind of cool. And also, typically, if you're really going to go do some hardcore riding off-road, you're going to get more of a dirt bike. And if you're going to do big miles adventure riding, you're probably going to get one of the R1300 GS to put on the big miles. But I am curious what this bike's going to be like for both daily riding and kind of a little bit of adventuring. So if you do want to see more on the R12 GS, stay tuned for our full review. But this is the Commuter fuel economy test. So we're going to head over to the gas station. Going to top the tank off and go out and do our 43-mile loop, come back and fill it up, see what sort of fuel economy we get. And also, this is going to be a raw first impressions ride. I like doing these where I kind of first time swinging my leg over the bike and getting an idea of what it's like, talking about what it would be like if you use this bike as a daily sort of commuter. So what else should we note here? We've got rear pegs, of course, kind of a cool one-piece seat. Of course, the big old air oil cooled Boxer Twin motor. All right, and away we go. Pretty outstretched handlebars here. I'm not a large or small person, 5'10", 32-inch inseam. I'm reaching forward a little bit to grab it. But like I said, this is not the full review. I don't have all the specs memorized here in front of me. I don't have the full pricing, but if I remember correctly, this bike is pretty fully kitted out and we're looking somewhere in the mid to low $20,000 range as we're seeing it, with quick shifters and advanced, pretty much everything BMW is going to offer on this bike. Now you do have to put 91 octane in here into the BMWs. So, something to consider if you're planning on riding this daily. You got a proxy key, which means, actually, you do have the proxy key, but typically with BMW bikes with proxy key, the fuel cap is automatically locked and unlocked. On this one, you still have to use the key. Interesting. Pop that open. Bike's going to blend in with the fuel pump. It is kind of a smaller looking machine. I generally like the way it looks. All right, we are topped off and ready to reset our trip information and get on the road. Let's turn the bike on. I so much appreciate that we have an analog tachometer on this one as opposed to the digital thing we had on the 9T. So let's go here. Trip 1, reset. Do we have an MPG? Yeah, we do. Let's reset that too. We are ready to ride. Very wide handlebars as well. Also, obviously, no sort of windscreen, but we do have this little tiny windscreen, I suppose. Just kind of a blocker. But sitting here with my 32-inch inseam, 5'10", seems like pretty clean air on my helmet, so we're not getting too bad of a loud buffeting or anything of the sort. We do have a few different ride modes on the R12 GS. We've got road, enduro, and rain. We're going to just be doing this test in road. We've got heated grips on here, cruise control. That is something that just kind of becomes, well, I shouldn't say it's not like it's standard or anything, but so much more common on these premium type bikes is niceties like heated grips and cruise control. There are a lot of bikes we ride that would be a totally nice bike to ride on the highway or daily commute or something like that, but you don't have cruise control. And I know if you haven't had it, it's like, oh, it's a big deal. But if you have had cruise control on a bike, you know it's really nice to have for highway stints. Interestingly, we've got these what look to be exhausts, no, intakes. They're intakes on the back side of the engine, and my calves are pressing up against them. I guess if you're standing, they don't seem to be an issue, but sitting, my calves are hitting them. So it'd be interesting to see if that gets annoying over the hour and a half so of riding. BMW's quick shifter is also not as refined with these big Boxer twins. Not too bad for downshifting, but the upshifts, just, you know, it's a lot to stop or at least disconnect the spinning of this engine. Yeah, it's just not as smooth of an application as with their inline motors. Or even the R1300 has a smoother shift as well. But this thing has plenty of easy grunts. You're looking at 110 horsepower, and you get that power nice and low in the rev range, so really squirts away nicely from any sort of stop. And despite not having much wind protection, it gets up to speed and masks its speed nicely. I think we're going to have a good bit of lane filtering practice with the R12GS today. Now here in California it is perfectly legal. In fact, I just did it by an officer of the law a moment ago. But we've got some wide handlebars, like I said. And you really got to be careful with your mirrors on this one, the handlebars. Fortunately though, if you can clear those, then you're good to go. I think somebody's smoking a cigar in the car in front of me. Quite potent. Yes, I was correct. That driver is smoking a cigar. The type of things you experience on a motorcycle. Whoa. Yeah, I would say if you were using this bike regularly in town and you were in an area where you could lane filter, you probably wouldn't love the width of the handlebars. Beautiful December day here out on PCH. Southern California just got done with some weather. Now this is December 29th. Look at how smooth the ocean is today. My goodness, you could waltz out there. Gorgeous. Coming down into Laguna Beach. Area that you wouldn't want any loud motorcycles. Pretty refined exhaust note on this one. Again, I don't know. I mean, this isn't a very wide lane to begin with, but yeah, the scrambler style bar is really making that lane filtering difficult. Slow speed, city sort of control. You do have to be a little careful with the clutch. It's a heavier clutch. I did have a stall earlier. It's been a while since I've stalled a bike, but you just gotta give a little extra motivation with the accelerator on this one. Center of gravity is nice and low with that Boxer twin, but with the wider seat and the height, you might have a little trouble getting feet down. Let me see as we come up to the stop before the 3rd Street Hill. Yeah, I'm on my tippy toes if I'm trying to get both feet down. But coming up 3rd Street Hill, plenty of grunt. Now for most of this test we try to keep it within 5 miles per hour of the posted speed limits, but you never know, you might have a section of your daily commute that's a little bit more interesting, and you might want to open up the bike a little bit on it. So in this section we're going to probably just keep it in road mode. I don't think enduro's where we're going to want to be, but we'll let the traffic ahead of us get a little space and then we'll open it up. Wow! Oh man, you don't realize how much more is up on the top end of that engine because it's got so much grunt down low that you never really have to get up by the fuel cut, but holy cow, does it really get to come to life up there. Above 6,000, it really pulls. Woo-wee! Funny a lean angle. Fun. Wrapping up the more city riding part of the test loop. It's not my favorite bike to be putzing around in the city with. Between the big kind of borderline lopey character of the engine, and then the seat width and height and the wide handlebars, it's fine. It's just not the kind of light, sprightly nature that I would want from a bike that's kind of charactered like this for kind of running around town. But the next part is a little bit more 50-mile-per-hour roads, suburban, and then getting up to our highway. So we'll be able to stretch the legs a little bit more here on the R12. Now the daily rider test won't have any sort of dirt, but I'll be sure to get some dirt riding in to mess around with this before it goes away for the full review. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Coming up to the highway portion, got a healthy section of the 5 and 405 freeway to get through. Now without any wind protection, or I should say very minimal wind protection, it will be a little blustery out there, so hopefully the audio is okay. If it's not, I'll wrap up my thoughts with you at the end of the highway. Yeah, and I just love the feeling of getting to stretch the legs of this motor. Okay. Settling in here, getting up to 70. Fortunately, the seat provides a good amount of room to lean back, so you can kind of scoot your butt back, is what I meant to say, and then lean forward into the winds to kind of counteract. Looking up our tachometer, looks like we're about 3,900 RPM at 70 miles per hour indicated. Let's give our cruise control a shot here. Very easy to set. No adaptive cruise like we had on the last BMW we tested. Bummer, but still nice to have. Lets you rest your wrists a little bit, kind of keeps you from building up too much speed. Alright, certainly not the worst bike out there on the highway. Wind has been hitting me just below my helmet, kind of upper chest, so like I said, it's not buffety, it's not too loud. It is blowing you back a little bit, so colder days are going to be tough on here, but all things considered, not bad. And having the power and the cruise control both welcomed. Coming in near the end of our ride now, looking at 48.8 MPG according to the bike's readout. That's respectable, I suppose, for these sort of tires. And, well, you know, I don't know the weight of the bike directly in front of me, but I guess I would have wanted a little bit better. Maybe up in the 50s, considering how small the profile is of this motorcycle. But we are working with a pretty good amount of power and maybe not the most ideal cylinder layout. I don't know. Depends on who you ask. But either way, we're going to be pulling into the gas station here shortly, and we'll top it off and see what our pump calculated numbers are. Overall comfort by the end, didn't really mind the seating position. Seat decently supportive as well. So from that perspective, between kind of how you sit on the bike and how it's supporting you, pretty good for riding. We put in 0.852 gallons to top back the tank here on the R12 GS. 42.9 miles traveled divided by 0.852 is giving us, okay, a little bit better than the bike's readout, giving us right there 50 miles per gallon here for this scrambler motorcycle on a commuter style ride. Yeah, I mean, still pretty darn good, I would say. I think what's kind of more interesting is the fact that the R1300 RT that we just tested got 46 on the same test. So I don't know what sort of witchcraft they're doing with that 1300 series motor, but man, between the arrows and everything, that's really impressive for the weight and power of that bike. So I guess I was expecting a little bit more from this one, but that's not really the point of this engine and this bike. We've got a 4.1 gallon fuel tank in here, so 4.1 gallons times 50 miles is giving you just about 200 miles of daily riding cruising range here on the R12 GS. And obviously that's going to go down quite a bit if you're ringing out this 1200cc Boxer Twin. It's also going to go down if you're using this in the dirt like you're supposed to be. But final kind of daily riding thoughts on the bike. I don't love this engine as a daily rider. Now what I do love it for is kind of a weekend, occasional fun ride sort of bike. In all the forms of the R12, I think it's very fun to just get it out, shake it out. You get such a character from this engine, kind of wiggling back and forth, and it would be really fun to take this out in the sand. I'm looking forward to that, kind of play around in the desert with it or something like that, or do some sort of dirt trail. But as a daily rider, I would pick a different sort of engine and probably just a different sort of body set as well. I mean, it looks cool, but you can just do so much better from a practicality, comfort, usability, ease of riding, all of it, even efficiency, here as we saw here today, than this bike. But I'm really looking forward to spending more time with it and getting the full review out to you here in a month or so. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. If you do want to see more of our daily rider sort of tests, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.